Hola, bienvenido a este video. Hello, my name is Nate and welcome to today's video. I am a Spanish teacher and today I'm going to be teaching you all the Spanish you need to know in under 30 minutes. First, we're going to talk about basic phrases in Spanish. Then we're going to go over the general sentence structure that we use in Spanish. And next, we're going to go over something that I don't often see in these kinds of videos. Typically, in these like kind of under 30-minute lessons, we see a lot of words and vocabulary, and that's fantastic. But I'm going to be showing you the most basic and easiest ways to talk in any tense in the Spanish language: the past, the present, and the future. So if you could, please like this video. It really does help me out a lot. And if you're interested in learning Spanish with me, you can go to my website, SpanishWithNate.com, where I have a free 7-day Spanish training that you can take advantage of. Okay, so the first basic word is hola. Of course, hello. Now we have many different ways of saying hola in Spanish. For example, we could say, ¿Qué tal? How's it going? In Mexico, oftentimes we'll say, ¿Qué onda? What's up? You also have things like from the Dominican Republic, ¿Qué lo que? But hola is the easiest and most common way to say hello, hi, hey in the Spanish language. Next we have adios, goodbye. Now we can also say things like hasta luego, see you later. You may have heard hasta la vista, baby. That's basically see you next time.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Next we have ¿Cómo estás? How are you? Is informal. In Spanish, we have a informal and formal. When we say ¿Cómo está? Versus ¿Cómo estás? We're speaking formally versus informally. Next is ¿Cómo te llamas? What is your name? How do you call yourself? Once again, that is informal. If we want to say ¿Cómo se llama? That would be the formal. ¿Cómo se llama? Me llamo. I call myself. My name is. Yo me llamo Nate. My name is. So if I say to you, ¿Cómo estás? You could say, estoy bien. ¿Y tú? I'm good. And you? Of course, we need to know this word, and that is gracias. Thank you. This is the most important word in the whole language. Next, por favor, please. Sometimes if someone's speaking to you in Spanish and they're speaking a little bit too quickly, you can say más despacio, por favor. Slower, please. Next one is de nada, you're welcome. Literally translating to of nothing. And finally, we have the word amigo, friend, amiga, friend, but as a female, okay? Amigo, masculine, amiga, feminine. Gracias, amigo. De nada. ¿Cómo te llamas? Yo me llamo Nate. Mucho gusto. Nice to meet you. Que tengas un buen día. Have a good day. Okay, so there are your basic phrases in Spanish. Now let's move on to the sentence structure. Now, when we first learn about Spanish sentence structure, it can be a little bit confusing. However, we do have a little formula that we can follow that generally sentences will follow in Spanish, and that is subject, verb, object. Juan compra el pan. Juan is our subject, compra is our verb, el pan, the object. Now that we have our basic phrases, we've got our basic sentence structure, how do we talk in the present tense? Arguably, the present tense is the most important tense because it's the most frequently used. Actually, in Spanish, we have formulas. In Spanish, we have what we call conjugation. Basically means we take a verb in its infinitive form and we put it into a conjugated form. When a verb is in its infinitive, that means it is in its kind of base form. For example, the verb hablar, meaning to speak. Anytime a verb is in its infinitive form, it's going to mean to blank. And we have 3 different kinds of infinitive verbs in the Spanish language: AR, ER, and IR verbs. AR verbs are verbs that end with AR, ER verbs are verbs that end with ER, and you guessed it, IR verbs are verbs that end with IR. All regular verbs in the Spanish language follow patterns. Anytime I want to conjugate a regular verb that ends with AR into the present tense, I instantly know how to do it just because I know its conjugation pattern. For example, the verb hablar. If I want to say I speak, then I would say yo hablo, and we'll go over the conjugations right now. I speak. Now let's say I learned a totally new verb that I didn't know before. For example, bailar is also a regular AR verb. So without needing to learn any new rules, I can simply apply my basic formula and I instantly know how to use that verb in the yo form, me, right? I, the tú form, you, the nosotros form, we, the él, ella, usted form, he, you, she. So yo bailo, tú bailas. Let's go over AR verbs in the present tense and how to conjugate them. O, as, a, amos, an. Those endings apply to the people that we're talking about, to the pronoun. In Spanish, we have pronouns, which are yo, I, tú, you, él, he, ella, she, usted, which is you, but in its formal version, nosotros, we, ellos, they, which is masculine, ellas, they, but only feminine, and ustedes, you guys. Okay, we're not going to go over vosotros, which is used in Spain. So for example, using that AR verb hablar, let's conjugate it based off of our rules. Yo hablo, tú hablas. Él habla, ella habla, usted habla. He speaks, she speaks, you speak. Nosotros hablamos, we speak. Ellos hablan, ellas hablan, ustedes hablan. O, as, a, amos, an. That's it. That is the formula. Now, of course, in Spanish, there are what we call irregular verbs, which follow irregular conjugation patterns. Now, for those, we simply have to memorize them. Any regular AR verb, now you know how to conjugate it instantly. I speak, you speak, he speaks. You dance, he dances, we dance. Whatever. Now, for ER verbs, they're almost the same, except it is o, as, a, amos, an for the AR verbs. Now, for an ER verb, for example, like comer, meaning to eat, we have yo como. O, es, e, hemos, en. Yo como, tú comes, él, ella, usted come, nosotros comemos, ellos, ellas, ustedes comen. That's the rule for the ER verbs. And finally, for the IR verbs, vivir, yo vivo, tú vives, él, ella, usted vive, nosotros vivimos, ellos, ellas, ustedes viven. So the only change between the ER verbs and the IR verbs in the regular present tense is in the nosotros form. In the IR, we have imos, and in the ER, we have hemos. Okay, so for example, comemos versus vivimos. Hey, if you want to speak Spanish just like me, go to SpanishWithNate.com. Let's move on to verbs in the preterite tense, which is in the past tense. In Spanish, we have two different past tenses, two main different past tenses, which we use the most, which are the preterite and the imperfect. Now, the preterite is for one-time actions in the past. The imperfect is for ongoing actions in the past. For example, the preterite would be I ate. The imperfect would be I was eating. Now, this can also be translated as I used to eat. I ate versus I was eating, or I used to eat. Okay, see the difference? Preterite, one-time actions in the past. Imperfect, ongoing actions in the past. How do we conjugate them? Okay, so for any regular AR verb in the preterite, we have, for example, hablar. Yo hablé. Tú hablaste. Él habló. Nosotros hablamos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes hablaron. Notice how in the nosotros form, it's the exact same as it is in the present tense, which is kind of nice. It's one less thing to remember. Be careful of the accents, because if you say yo hable versus yo hablé, you're saying two different things. Hable would be incorrect. Yo hablé. Now let's move on to ER and IR verbs in the preterite. Follow the same exact conjugation pattern. Yo comí. Tú comiste. Él, ella, usted comió. Nosotros comimos. Ellas, ustedes comieron. Y, iste, yo, imos, ieron. Same exact thing for IR verbs. For example, yo viví. Tú viviste. Él, ella, usted vivió. Nosotros vivimos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes vivieron. I know we're going quick. Once again, I don't want the video to be too long. I have more in-depth lessons on this on my website, SpanishWithNate.com. I have my Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy on there. You can go and learn all of this in depth. Now let's move on to the imperfect. The preterite is for one-time actions in the past, whereas the imperfect is for ongoing actions in the past. Let's take a look at the same exact verbs that we've been using throughout this video. Starting off with hablar, a regular AR verb. The conjugation for this in the imperfect is going to be yo hablaba. Tú hablabas. Él, ella, usted hablaba. Nosotros hablábamos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes hablaban. Now, notice how in the yo person and the él, ella, usted person, it's the exact same ending. Haba. Nosotros hablábamos, not hablábamos, hablábamos. And finally, hablaban. Habas, haba, habamos, haban. For example, yo hablaba, I was speaking, or I used to speak. How do we know the difference between I was speaking and I used to speak? Context clues are everything in Spanish. ER and IR verbs, once again, are the same in the imperfect. For example, comer. Yo comía. Tú comías. Él, ella, usted comía. Nosotros comíamos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes comían. So, yo comía. I used to eat, or I was eating. Ias, ia, íamos, ian. Same exact thing with the IR verbs. Vivir. Yo vivía. Tú vivías. Él, ella, usted vivía. Nosotros vivíamos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes vivían. There you have it. Now you know how to conjugate any regular verb, the imperfect tense, and the preterite tense. You should be really proud of yourself. Get the formulas down, memorize them, because by knowing your formulas, you're actually going to have to memorize and remember way less. Today we're going to be learning about the ir plus a plus infinitive use of the future tense. Ir, meaning to go, that is our verb in Spanish, ir, to go. This is an irregular, meaning it follows irregular conjugation patterns. We have plus a, which means to in Spanish, T-O. And then we have plus the infinitive, okay? Any infinitive verb we want. For example, if I want to say, I am going to speak. Voy a hablar. Voy is actually in the present tense. It's not this idea of the present progressive, which is this idea of the ing verbs in English. It's the regular present tense. While you think it might mean yo voy, I go, it can take on that meaning of I am going, okay? And whenever we use this ir plus a plus infinitive, it does do that. For example, vas a comer. Él va a buscar la carta. Nosotros vamos a ver lo que suceda. Ellos van a ver un concierto esta noche. That is literally it. Now you know how to speak in the future tense. Now we can also use the preterites and the imperfect. For example, if I want to say, I went to buy the bread. Yo fui a comprar el pan. I went to buy the bread. Now, the only thing that's changed there is the tense. Ir is now just in the preterite. So, yo voy a comprar el pan. I am going to buy the bread. Versus, yo fui a comprar el pan. I went to buy the bread. One-time action. Pretty cool. You've got down the most important tenses in under 30 minutes. Not too bad. Now, if you have any questions, you want something clarified, please just leave a comment on this video, or you can send me a message on my website. Whatever you want to do, okay? Please ask me questions. That is how we learn. Try to be speaking the language as much as possible. There are fantastic websites like italki.com where you can have nice lessons with tutors from all over the world at a very reasonable price. You can also use an app like HelloTalk, completely free. I'm actually starting to offer live classes now on my website. Also, please be listening to the language every single day. I always tell students the easiest way is by listening to music. You need to be absorbing the language. Reading as well, guys. Texting people, fantastic way to learn Spanish. Put your phone in Spanish. That is going to help you a lot. You can have predictive text on your keyboard that will put things in Spanish. So you'll say, quiero que, Oh, okay, yeah, that is what I want to say. Cool, boom, touch the little button. You'll learn like that. Seriously, there's all these weird little fun tricks that you can do. But speak the language. You gotta speak the language. Okay, a lot of people, they're learning the language and they never speak with people. Well, what's the point of learning Spanish if you never talk to anyone? Muchas gracias por ver este video. Espero que te haya ayudado. Si es así, por favor, dale un like y también suscríbete ya para que veas más videos chidos así como este. And like I already said, if you'd like to learn Spanish with me, you can go to my website, SpanishWithNate.com, and you can sign up for my free 7-day Spanish training. Muchas gracias. Nos vemos. Adiós.